So for those of you that were here before, I attempted to bait as many of you back as I could by informing you that I've brought with me a very old, historically, and I believe spiritually significant piece of history. And I went through a great deal of trouble to acquire this item. And I have for you yet another trusted source. It's a video showing the actual recovering of this artifact.
You got heart, kid, but that belongs to me.
This should be in a museum.
I'll give it back.
We'll move on. So all joking aside, last week we touched on the American dollar, and you could spend an entire day on that topic. In God we trust. Which God? Just to the left of that is a phrase with portions of a prayer to the god Jupiter. You've got the eye of the Egyptian god Horus right above a Egyptian pyramid. There's a lot of esoteric, weird stuff on that dollar bill. The archaeological find that I'm going to share with you is much older than the dollar bill, hundreds of years older. And it'll tie this issue of the dollar, believe it or not, directly to the Bible. But you'll have to wait till the end. So we'll resume where we left off. It's in the field of astronomy where the dots really seem to connect between these ancient gods and the search for life in the cosmos. Consider the heavens, where the Vatican and NASA have their powerful telescopes trained. All of the planets, except Earth, all of them were named after Roman and Greek gods and goddesses. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. They were all named thousands of years ago. Did we outgrow that practice? No. 18th century, Uranus, Greek god of the sky. 19th century, Neptune, Roman god of the sea. 20th century, Pluto, Greek god of the underworld. The Jesuit priest appointed by the Pope in 2006 as director of the Vatican Observatory, we talked about that a little bit last week, it's in Arizona, he stated that Christians should consider the alien as a, quote, extraterrestrial brother who may not need redemption, possibly having remained in full friendship with their creator, end quote. And I would say that's a dangerous notion, suggesting that whatever is out there could have spiritual insight to offer humanity. In 2014, the Pope asserted that we should be enthusiastically inclined to baptize aliens into the church, quoted saying, "Who are we to close doors?" And what of NASA, that good old, honest, God-fearing government institution? Will we see more of the same, or just another nod to the gods of the pagan pantheons? So how was NASA started? I'm sure you're all familiar with the name Wernher von Braun. Okay. He is deemed the father of space travel. He led NASA's development of the Saturn rocket, the Saturn V rocket, which was used by the Apollo 11 astronauts for the moon missions. Apollo, there's that name again. And in case you thought von Braun's rocket was named after the planet Saturn and not a god, I'll just take a moment to draw your attention to the names of the most famous American space missions: Gemini, Apollo, Artemis, gods and goddesses. The United States space program was built on the back of Nazi scientists via Operation Paperclip. What that was basically, more than 1,000 scientists, in exchange for helping build government programs like NASA, were pardoned for their involvement in the Nazi Party, a group which, among countless other atrocities, was bent on exterminating the Jews from off the face of the earth. And while von Braun is revered today, he was no unwilling participant. I haven't had the time to fact check the sources on this, but there are stories that I've heard where he was in charge of major operations in Nazi Germany, where they would hang the 5 slowest working Jews to motivate their slave labor. What we do know is that he, like many other Nazi scientists, escaped war crimes due to the United States' desire to defeat the Soviets in the Cold War. Where did the name NASA come from? Well, it stands for National Aeronautics Space Administration. At least we think it does. Genesis 3:13, it reads, "And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat." Some have noticed some very strange things about the NASA name and logo. What does that red design look like to you? I'm sure that is just a coincidence. The logo appears to have the tongue of a serpent. The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. In parentheses, you can see there, that is the Hebrew beguiled. This is what the transliteration looks like. It looks like NASA. I was skeptical myself when I first saw this. When you look this up, some are quick to point out that the S in the transliteration is pronounced SH. And so when transliterating the Hebrew into English, the spelling would be more accurately rendered as Nishah. That's what you see in the top right. So it's worth noting that when a word is accurately transliterated into English, the spelling is not entirely dependent on how the word sounds when spoken in Hebrew. So I have some familiar examples for you up there, the names Abraham and Gabriel. I think we all know how that's spelled and how they sound. Respectively, this is what they would look like when they're transliterated. You can see the Hebrew, and just to the right, that's their transliteration. In written English, they're spelled exactly like their transliterations, but without the punctuations. They don't sound the same as they are pronounced in Hebrew. In Hebrew, they're pronounced Abraham, I'm probably going to butcher this, and Gabriel, or Gabriel, I don't know. But in any case, when they're accurately transliterated, they look exactly like we would see them in the English language, just not pronounced the same. Widely regarded as the most comprehensive and accurate source for understanding the words of the Bible in their original languages is Strong's Exhaustive Concordance. From the latest edition, the 10th print in 2021, you can see I've copied it right out of the concordance. NASA means to lead astray, to delude, to seduce, to beguile, to deceive. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration was founded on July 29, 1958. Not even 5 months later, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, was absorbed into the space agency, acting as its main planetary spacecraft division. A founding member of JPL, and considered by many to be one of the most prolific figures in the history of modern rocketry, was astronomical engineer and chemist Jack Parsons. That's who you see pictured in the top left. Von Braun, as you remember, he was given the title the father of space travel. I haven't had time to investigate this either, but I did read he wrote a book on von Braun, and he said that when he was addressed with that title, when von Braun was addressed with the title father of space travel, he responded with something like, Jack Parsons was more worthy of that title. A close disciple of renowned occultist Aleister Crowley, Parsons was also deeply involved in ceremonial magic rituals and invoking the name of pagan gods. These are the people that are behind the development of space travel. In 1946, with the assistance of L. Ron Hubbard, that's the founder of Scientology, you can see him pictured there in the bottom right, and Marjorie Cameron, Parsons carried out a series of intricate magic rituals that I cannot discuss with the little ears present. These rituals, carried out over a period of 3 months, were intended to create a physical manifestation of the great mother goddess Babylon. Identified with Mother Earth in the creeds of Crowley's religion, Thelema, Parsons believed the great whore in Revelation 17 was loosely based on this same goddess, but that she was more accurately represented in the pagan religions of Hinduism as Bhavani and in Egyptian polytheism as Isis. And that's Crowley in the bottom left two images. That's him, Marjorie Cameron in the middle, and L. Ron Hubbard on the right there. Now, to presume the spiritual atmosphere of an organization based solely on the personal beliefs of one man would be unreasonable, would it not? Especially considering that Parsons' untimely and mysterious death was 6 years prior to JPL joining NASA. Furthermore, the acronym an organization goes by, coinciding with an ancient Hebrew word, NASA, used to describe Satan's first interaction with mankind, should seem more like a coincidence to us than a cryptic indication of deception. On the other hand, NASA has a long history of naming its programs, missions, and equipment after pagan gods, which is being suggested are the representations of fallen entities in league with the god of this world, Satan. Many of these names, when not overtly pagan, are at the very least pagan or occultic by proximal association. Our shuttle missions. You have Gemini. Gemini are the Greek god twins, Castor and Pollux. Their names actually appear in your King James Bible. Acts 28. Paul is about to be taken to Rome by ship, a ship whose sign, it says, is Castor and Pollux. It's a strange detail to include. Anyone familiar with serpent seed doctrine? I'm not going to get into that, and you don't need to waste your time doing it, but if you have. So Castor and Pollux are the offspring, they're twins. They have the same mother. Their father is the god Zeus, and then the other twin's father is a human father. It smacks of serpent seed doctrine. Did you know what Google's new AI is named? Gemini. Then you have the Apollo missions. We've spoken a good deal already about the sun god Apollo, and I had more on him too, connecting the son of perdition to Apollo, using the concordance. Maybe that we could save that for the bonus time. Next week. And currently we have our latest shuttle program, Artemis, also known as Diana of Ephesus, who they claimed in Acts 19:17, all Asia and the world worshipeth. She was kind of a big deal. So whether for launch vehicles, satellites, space probes, sounding rockets, programs, or missions, here listed are only some of the names NASA has used.
Timothy was killed during a celebration to Diana.
Oh, is that right? Wow. I did not know that. So for the recording, Timothy was killed in a celebration to Diana. Wow, in Ephesus. So here are some of the names that NASA has used. Eros, Aegina, Anna, Apollo, Argo, Ariel, Ares, Artemis, Atlas, Aurora, Boreas, Centaur, Ceres, Cupid, Echo, Gaia, Gemini, Helios, Janus, Juno, Jupiter, Kaiguya, Maya, Mercury, Nike. Yeah, sorry, your shoes are named after a god too. Nimbus, Osiris, Pegasus, Prometheus, Roman, Saturn, Thor, Titan, Ulysses, Viking. They have also made regular use of acronyms, like NASA as an acronym. Examples: Arcus, Asp, Eros, Ogo, Imp, Iris, Isis, Nerva, Owl, Set, Seva, Sphinx, NASA. It's not in any way being suggested that this was done intentionally by those who named the space agency, but at the same time, it may not have been a coincidence, which, if so, is all the more creepy and unsettling. And in case you were wondering, the information that I just gave you regarding NASA, JPL, and the names used by NASA were obtained from nasa.gov and this official NASA publication that was authored by Helen Wells, 1976, Origin of NASA Names, printed by the U.S. Government Printing Office. In all probability, the great deception spun by that man of sin, the son of perdition, that's 2 Thessalonians 2:3, will be a misrepresentation of the physical return of Jesus Christ. Know your enemy. He is unimaginably ancient, one of God's first created, full of wisdom, once perfect in beauty. You would get that from Ezekiel 28. He's terrifying to look upon, fire-breathing, impenetrable by mortal weapons, feared by the mightiest, himself made without fear, full of pride, and king over all the prideful. You would get that from Isaiah 14 and Job 41. He's vastly knowledgeable of the scriptures, exceedingly dark and powerful. Luke 4, Hebrews 2, Acts 26, Colossians 1. He's subtle, deceptive, able to transform his appearance, extraordinarily persuasive. Genesis 3, 2 Corinthians 11, Revelation 12. And he's defined by Scripture as the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience, and the God of this world. It's Ephesians 2:2, 2 Corinthians 4:4. Behind the scenes of human history, Satan and his followers have been quietly and patiently orchestrating an intricate and elaborate plan that will deceive the whole world. Revelation 12:9. Far-fetched perhaps, but is it really given what was just revealed about him from Scriptures? I've heard numerous plausible scenarios on how the UFO extraterrestrial issue could play into end times. So I've heard a craft lands, beings step off, claim to be the gods that built the ancient megaliths. We can worship them, just like the Sumerians, the Egyptians, the Mayans. Or maybe a craft lands and a savior god steps off claiming to be the Messiah. He has the cures to all illnesses and the answers for world peace. Or maybe an alien visitor arrives just in time to prevent us, or maybe AI, from destroying the world with nuclear war. You can come up with a multitude of examples. There's no way to know for sure, but consider this as just one of countless scenarios. Imagine a world leader on your television, attempting to put the public at ease. During his speech, you see panning images of huge starships hanging in the sky, maybe a large vessel descending onto the White House lawn. He speaks confidently so as to calm the public's fears. Speaking of the visitors beginning to descend down the ramps from their crafts, he says, they are highly evolved and far more technologically advanced. They have been in contact with us for millennia, sharing knowledge and enriching our ways of life. Whatever the reason for their visit, we owe them our trust and our loyalty. When the beings step off, they're able to communicate with us. They tell us, we've been watching you, tracking your progress for millions of years. They're able to show us holographic video recordings they took when they would drop in periodically, showing our slow transitional development from monkeys to man, an accelerated evolutionary process that was initiated by introducing their DNA into primates. They show you another holographic video, a recording of Jesus' ministry, of his crucifixion. It's not quite what you thought it was, if this is true. He was not God, they say. He was one of us. What will you do as a Christian when some fantastic event, when some new reality seems to defy everything that's in that book? Are you going to believe your eyes? Are you going to believe your ears? Are you going to believe your heart? Or are you going to believe that book? Whatever it is that happens, the Bible says the whole world will be deceived. Speaking of the Antichrist, 2 Thessalonians 2, 9 through 12, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish. Because when they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved, and for this cause God shall send them a strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. So for those who believed not the truth, there will be no second chances. So let's talk about the dollar sign. Why an S for dollar? Why not a D? Is that even an S? There are several competing theories, but no general consensus on how it came to be. Don't you find that odd for a symbol that we use so frequently? One theory is that it came from a U overlapping an S that stands for United States. The lower curve of the U is dropped, and then you're left with two vertical lines through an S. The trouble is, there is a lot of documented evidence that that symbol was in use long before 1776. That's when our country began going by the United States. Before that, it was the United Colonies. Surprisingly, many still believe this theory that it's true, although it's already been disproven. There's some other less popular theories I'm not going to go over, but the most generally accepted theory is that it stands for pesos. People would shorthand it PS, and the P slowly overlapped, and then the curve on the right side of the P was dropped, and you're left with an S and a single line down the middle. Then it was borrowed from the Spanish by other countries. This is considered to be, by most, the true origin, but it's still only a theory. The symbol's origins are ultimately unknown. What I'm going to share with you now, what I believe, it is the true origins of the dollar sign. Now, if the origins of the word dollar and the origins of the symbol that represent that word are intertwined, the most compelling theory and by far the most fascinating is the story of the Jokumsthaler. And now the moment you've been waiting for.
That belongs in a museum. So do you.
Okay. In the 1520s, an imperial kingdom of the Holy Roman Empire, the Kingdom of Bohemia, its modern-day Czech Republic, began minting a coin known as the Jokumsthaler. The name of the coin was later shortened to thaler, and subsequent spelling reform rendered it taler. If this sounds familiar, it should, as this is the etymological development of the word dollar. Not long after the first coins were in circulation, the 1528 pestilence Jokumsthaler, the Pestthaler, was minted by Utsgebhard of Jokumsthal. Designed to commemorate the recent plagues that had swept across Europe, the back of the thaler depicts the Nehushtan, a brazen serpent winding itself around a pole. And thus, I believe, the dollar sign was born. So how did I get onto this? Believe it or not, it started with me reading 2 Kings. I read about how King Hezekiah did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. 2 Kings 8:4 says, he removed the high places and brake the images and cut down the groves and brake in pieces the brazen serpent that Moses had made. For unto those days the children of Israel did burn incense to it and called it Nehushtan. So I think it was later that day at work, I wrote the dollar sign on a receipt. And then I noticed it again on my computer keyboard. And I think I might have been texting somebody and I saw it in my text app. And it struck me. I thought about this passage and I thought, that can't be. There's no way that's what that is. So I went and I searched the origins of the dollar sign to see if that's what it was. And I thought maybe that's what I'd find out it was. And strangely, as we already covered, the true origins of the symbol were murky at best. No one knows for sure where it came from. My search turned into, has the Nehushtan ever appeared on coinage or currency? And it turns out it had. Not only that, the type of currency just so happens to also be the origin of the word dollar. That's a fact. The odds are just too close to be coincidence for me. Not hard to see, just hard to believe. It's easier to believe one of those other two theories. In 1528, this coin was struck. I have the actual coin with me. It's an almost 500-year-old coin. I'm going to pass it around for everybody to see. It's in a case. Don't take it out of the case. The oils from your hand can damage the coin. I want the kids to be able to see it too, so just use your best discretion if they can handle it carefully. And I'll start it in the back of the room and you can just pass it around and until it gets back to me. And so now we've come full circle. At the start, I told you we'd begin with the same topic we'd end with. We started with serpent worship. Mankind's first recorded verbal interaction was with an entity identified as the serpent. It's Genesis 3. Also known as the devil and Satan, Revelation 12, Revelation 20. The serpent's desire is to be worshipped. That's Matthew 4:9. Eerily, the worship of serpents has been prevalent on every continent in nearly every culture going further back into antiquity than we have record. It does seem hard to believe that a brazen serpent worshipped by backslidden Hebrews could be the inspiration of the dollar symbol. Then again, the symbol for medicine is the rod of Asclepius, a serpent. In commerce, as represented by the caduceus of Hermes, 2 serpents. Generally, a monotheist today would scoff at the thought of placing their trust in an idol, wouldn't you? In reality, most of us put far more trust in money, the medical industry, and material possessions than we do God for our happiness and personal well-being. Money, commerce, the medical industry, and the mascot for all three is the serpent. The serpent is the very source and originator of sin, according to Scripture. That's Isaiah 14, Ezekiel 28, Luke 10:18, Genesis 3, John 8:44, Revelation 12:9, Revelation 22. Consequently, an image of the serpent forever became the symbolic representation of sin. That's John 3:14, 2 Corinthians 5:21. If the serpent, Satan, truly craves the worship of mankind, and if the love of money is indeed the root of all evil, should a connection between Satan and these symbols seem so implausible? Even right here in Ohio, in Cincinnati, the Serpent Mound is the largest earth effigy in the world. Or I heard somebody else say that. I haven't checked it out yet. It's thousands of years old, and supposedly it mapped astrological bodies with incredible precision and was an obvious indication of serpent worship. From Genesis chapter 3 until now, serpent imagery has been highly featured throughout human history. Earthen structures, monuments, idols, and symbols, certainly intended to venerate the gods that stood behind them, and possibly even Satan himself. This practice of making idols carried on throughout time to also worship what very well could be the representations of Satan's fallen cohorts, the same beings that most will be willing and ready to welcome with open arms as alien saviors from the stars. So in closing, keep your eyes opened. Keep the book open, more importantly. Test everything against the Scriptures. We've covered a lot: the sons of God, giants, demigods, devils, visitations from angelic extraterrestrial beings. The earth's past is a storied one, and much of it can be illuminated by the truth of God's Word. Ancient history is far more profound than it appears at first glance. It's a magnificent story, partially concealed, whose full revelation will undoubtedly sing the praises of our God. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your attention. That does conclude the lesson. Pastor's going to make a comment. Yeah. There you go.
So it's really fun. All my life as a child, I didn't ever understand that serpent in the wilderness, and they were commanded to bow down before it, to create it and bow down before it. Well, then in John 3:14 that he mentioned, as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up. How could Jesus and the serpent be the same type? And I heard someone say, he quoted the other passage, 2 Corinthians 5:21, he who knew no sin was made to be sin for us. If you could have seen Jesus on the cross with spiritual eyes, he would have looked just like Satan. He was made to be sin. Isn't that amazing with that serpent? Had you already covered that in here?
I had. You guys all knew that, right? No, I did not cover that, but I've heard you say that, and I totally agree.
It's just amazing the way that ties together. I loved this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's give him a hand. It's work.
How about give my wife a hand for taking care of my children and not throwing me out when I get home? She'll kill me for that. Okay, so does anybody have any questions regarding anything that I've covered over the last 3 weeks, or anything I teased at?
Beginning, I was
Yeah, I'll start from the beginning. Yeah. Yes, you need to burn all your dollars if you're a Christian, or just give them all to me. I'll take care of burning them all. It's the 1528 pestilence Joachimsthaler. It's spelled Joachimsthaler. So yeah, with that theory.
How did that coin become so influential?
Well, so I actually, and yeah, like it's virtually unheard of. So when I looked it up, and I'm not claiming to be the first person to have noticed this or see it, I scoured the internet, and once I had put this together, and I only found one article that made the connection, one. And I could tell from the person that wrote it, they did not believe it. Like I said, it's hard to believe if that's true. I mean, that's really creepy. I just can't buy the pesos thing. It doesn't.
On the dollar.
Oh.
How did that coin?
So I don't remember what the most prevalent currency was prior to that, but if you, the pesos right before the United States dollar, because now we have like the gold standard, considered for money. Before that, it was the pesos. I know. Before that, but anyways, if you trace it all the way back into history, when they started minting those coins, that was back when they were actually made of silver and other precious metals. The Joachimsthaler that were minted over there, right close to Germany, that became the standard, like the world standard for much of the world over in that area. I don't remember what it was prior to that. But that's where the name dollar came from. I mean, that's an absolute fact. You can check it out. Started in the 1520s. I asked ChatGPT about the issue. I was like, I'm gonna check out and see how I did with my research, see what ChatGPT says. And 1528 Joachimsthaler coin, commonly referred to as thaler, holds a significant place in numismatic history and is closely associated with the development of the modern dollar sign, it says. Like I said, I only saw it in one article, and the person that wrote it didn't believe it. But in the conclusion, it was like a page and a half. It said, the 1528 Joachimsthaler coin with its depiction of the Nehushtan played a crucial role in the history of currency. While the exact origin of the dollar sign is debated, the connection of the Joachimsthaler is a compelling theory. The coin's legacy lives on in the term dollar and the iconic symbol that represents it. I mean, like, that's just too much of a coincidence for me. That's where the origin of the word came from. Why not the sign? Did anybody have any questions? Paul? I didn't really get too deep into like the Nazis' occult practices, but yeah, it's pretty startling when you research our country's history, how much innovation and how much research we basically stole. You basically just took scientists that were guilty of killing and murdering the Jews, and we just used their scientists. We just took them over here and repurposed them. But I hit a little bit of that last week, how Hitler was an occultist himself. One thing I did actually research further, we talked about it a little bit last week, since everybody's just sitting there, not raising their hands. The whole Apollo thing I found fascinating. So I didn't come up on that myself. And if y'all can read between the lines, I'm going to use a quote of pastors. When I said, one commentator said, you might know where that came from, but it was in his book where he actually made a connection between the son of perdition. And he didn't say that he thought that's what it was, but he made the connection between the son of perdition and Apollyon and Apollo. And he actually said, and I'm just going on based off what he said, that in Greek mythology, Apollo actually is supposed to ascend out of Hades. And then apparently in some of the mystic Jewish books, they believe the Messiah is in the center of the earth and he's going to come out. And I mean, you start making those connections, it's pretty creepy. But something I checked into this week. So, I mean, when we were going through this, let me see here. I put something down here in my notes. I mean, how many lowercase g gods do we talk? I mean, there's like a half dozen gods listed in the Bible. I mean, we talked about Jupiter, Mercurius, Diana, Castor and Pollux. I probably won't even be able to think of them all. But I thought, it'd be really easy to make this connection with this son of perdition thing if Apollo was in the Bible, but he's not. But then it occurred to me this week, his name's not in the Bible, but there's names that are derived from Apollo that are in the Bible. So there's Apollos, one of the disciples. And if you look in a concordance, his name, and I'm trying to do this from memory, it means either belongs to or given by Apollo. The Greek root for his name is Apollonia. That also appears in your King James Bible. Apollonia, I can't remember, I don't remember if it's in Thessalonians, but Paul talks about when he's journeying about, it mentions the city Apollonia. Now when you look at that means it also means belongs to Apollo or whatever. You check it out for yourself. Now when you look at the Greek root for Apollonia, it's the same Greek root word for Apollyon and perdition. So there it connects Apollo right back to perdition. Pretty creepy. Oh, here, let's see what else I got on I think I had some bonus slides. So we talked about NASA enough. You all want me to keep going?
Yes.
All right. So maybe this will be a good topic for the next Weird Wednesdays, like next year or something. So serpent and other gods honored in logos. So 666, that's associated with worship of the Antichrist. If you read in Revelation, the Antichrist is Satan in the flesh. Now I said this honors, I say it is. If you want to walk around with your eyes closed all day, that's up to you. But I mean, how many times do we have to see the same stuff? I mean, okay, so CERN, you can clearly see 3 sixes right in their logo. Okay? Google, there's 3 sixes right in the logo. Disney, 1, 2, there's 3 sixes right in the logo. Texaco, it's got a pagan, it's got what do you call that? A pentagram with an upside down cross in it when you flip it upside down. The Starbucks emblem, that is a siren. It's like it's part of, I don't know if it's Roman or Greek mythology. The monster drink, I've heard people make the case, if you look like Hebrew characters, that's the Hebrew character for 6. You got 666, and it's a monster, it's a beast, whatever. The LG symbol, you got like the Eye of Providence thing going on, the one eye open. I've heard people make connections with the Chase sign, how you can fit a swastika right in that pretty easily. The Toyota sign, I've heard, or you can see 3 sixes in the Toyota logo, and it looks like a ox. The apple, I mean, everybody's heard that one, that's creepy. The forbidden fruit. Like, how many times can we just say, nah, that's just a coincidence? Nah, that's just a coincidence. You take Disney, every Disney movie, life can be hard, but if you're disobedient to your parents, consult spirits, practice magic, divination, and necromancy, everything will turn out all right in the end. That's basically the message of Disney. And don't get me wrong, I watch all the stuff too. I like to just watch it with, and filter this stuff through the Bible. Makes for a great conversation. Satan has blinded the minds of them that believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel should shine unto them. So that's spoken in the present tense. I mean, if people are blinded, I'm saying we're just walking around with our eyes closed. And it's not going to be until we open them on the other side that we're going to be like, wow, that was right in our face the whole time. So I know people think this is insane when you start talking about this stuff. And I could have probably put about 30 more logos up there. But yeah, just a little taste of that. I thought maybe it'd be good for another series, maybe next year, not next week. Something I didn't talk about was like with the UAPs. There's a passage that you might want to check out in Zechariah. I mean, not now. Check it out on your own time. It's Zechariah 5 through 11. There's a lot of strange connections in that. One being, it talks about female beings stepping out of what sounds like a craft, and they have the wings of a stork. They actually sound a lot like the angels you see painted in liturgical churches. Hey, I got a great idea. let's take this thing that the Bible says this is wickedness, let's paint them all over our church, and we'll call them angels. Something that's really interesting about that passage, it says, and then I said to the angel that talked with me, is verse 10, whither do these bear the ephah? And he said to me, to build an house in the land of Shinar. That's where we started. That's where all this stuff started. And it shall be established and set there upon her own base. Is that like a foundation, or is that like some other kind of base? I don't know. I'm going to stop unless anybody has questions. This is the only time I can do this. My wife, when I go home, she don't want to hear it. So, all right. Well, that's a wrap. So thank you again for coming. And where'd that coin end up? All right. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.